Hello everyone, and welcome to my zone. Welcome to my movie zone. Today is Halloween. Well, tomorrow is Halloween. Couple of days to Halloween, but what I'm saying is we're close. And when it's Halloween, you can go a bit crazy. And I, tonight, I'm going crazy. I will talk about horror movies done through the years. Now, I myself get scared of horror movies, but I can still talk about them. And horror movies have been a big part of Halloween down through the years. And it is, as you would say, the greatest part of the year to take out a horror movie would be Halloween. Makes sense. But I can tell you now that the first one we're going to talk about, there has been many great horror directors over the years. There has been the likes of John Carpenter, of course the great Tim Burton. There has been, of course, Stanley Kubrick, Alfred Hitchcock, of course Joel Schumacher, chanced his arm at horror before. Also, people like Wes Craven. Can never watch any of his films. They're too scary for me. But I can also tell you about people that wrote horror, and then there has been adaptations of their films. People like Bram Stoker, people like Stephen King, and many other great horror directors, and writers and directors, producers, all have brought us the films we're going to discuss today on the Movie Zone. Here with the Yoster, but tonight you can call me the Monster. But right now, I am going to talk about a few films. As you've seen at the start of the show there, I give you a little montage. Some of the films are horror films, some of them are psychological thrillers, some of them are psychological horrors. You will argue the point, you will say, that isn't a horror, or this isn't a horror, when you might have seen the billboard of the film at the start, but a lot of them are arguably horrors. For me personally, I find it easier to watch the horrors that kind of are satirical horrors, like the comedy style of horror. But I can also tell you that psychological thrillers, psychological horrors are a lot easier to watch than full-on horrors. I'm not big into full-on horrors, and I can tell you that now. I find them very hard to watch. But anyway, a few of the films that you've seen at the start, and on the clip at the start of the show, showed films such as Beetlejuice, of course the Tim Burton classic from 1988. Of course it starred Michael Keaton, legendary performance from Michael Keaton in that one. Also it starred, who else did this? Bill Pullman, of course. It also starred Gina Davis. And it was directed by the legendary Tim Burton. Tim Burton went on to direct films such as Edward Scissorhands, which starred the legendary, still going strong, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp has been in some amazing gothical films, and that in one in particular started the ball rolling for him as far as them kind of roles, perhaps you would say. Then people like films like Sleepy Hollow, of course, was about the Headless Horseman and stuff like that. It's too scary to even talk about. But anyway, Johnny Depp was in that one as well. Great collaborations from Johnny Depp and Tim Burton coming together, and of course the musical director of that one was your man, what's his name, Danny Elfman, who does the Batman films as well, which are also borderline horror, but more kind of thriller action. But the Tim Burton Batman films were kind of horrors because they touched on that style of stuff. very gothical, especially Batman Returns, which also starred Michael Keaton. So you get a lot of these coming together of lots of different Hollywood stars in these horror movies. But then again, some horror movies just market themselves on the actual film. They don't need big stars because the subject and the art of the film are good enough to get it across to the film buffs out there, the film fans. But I can tell you that also we have films such as the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is a massive on the musical front, and also you have the it's massive in the musical front. People went to watch it on Broadway, the West End. I talked to people who thought it was a great film altogether. And then I also haven't been to it myself, but I will sometime, hopefully. It's supposed to be very scary. I've never watched it fully through, the film, but it stars Tim Curry, among other strange people. But also I can tell you, films such as Speical, of course, the famous Norman Bates is, of course, the main character in that one. And it is directed by Alfred Hitchcock, who has directed lots of great horror films, like The Birds, also great. Films that are great if you're into that kind of thing. I'm not really into it, but I know about them, but I'm not really into it. But they're kind of strange, but there you go. Takes all these things, takes all kinds, as I say, takes all kinds. But also films such as the Scream legacy. 4 Scream films have been out, and I've screamed during every one of them. And then we've got films like The Shining, of course, by Stanley Kubrick. The Shining, of course, Jack Nicholson is the main man in that one. Shelley Long also stars in that film. Some great stuff. The Shining, of course, based on the novel by Stephen King. We got The Exorcist, of course, one of the most famous horrors out there. And I wouldn't even go there. I'm not even going to talk about that one. Poltergeist, another one I refuse to talk about, but it's also a film, and you've seen a bit of the billboard at the top of the show. Haunting in Connecticut. That one left me scarred for life when I went to see it in the cinema. I never slept for 3 months, and that is as true as I'm sitting here. Never. Very, very tough to watch. But then the other ones that so we've kind of hit on all the films that come to mind, especially the films that especially come to mind, and some great stuff in the horror front. I really feel that a horror movie, the people that are young filmmakers and the people in college and that would tell you that horror movies would probably be the easiest films to make. If you're making a short film, you would find a lot of the media students would make a horror movie, because it takes very little. It takes very, very little to make a horror movie. If you've got some scary music, if you've got a door screeching, you've got your horror movie, basically. You don't have to invest money that much. There isn't a big budget on a horror movie, basically, is what we're saying. Other things I can touch on. Horrors are probably one of the most popular genres in the movie world. I can say psychological horrors, psychological thrillers, even films like The Zodiac, which was out a few years ago, would be classed in the psychological thriller zone, which it would qualify to talk about on the show. Also, a very, very good film. That is The Zodiac. Also, some great films there. 2 films I want to talk about that another Batman director, the man that directed Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher. Before he done them films, he chanced his arm at the horror genre. And them 2 films that he done that stood out as classic 80s horrors. Well, one of them's a 1990 horror, the other one's 86 or 87. And this one is, of course, the Flatliners was the 1990 one, and then the 1987 film was of course The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys, these also have a common star, Kiefer Sutherland, is in The Lost Boys, and he is also in Flatliners. Two very strange films. Flatliners would be more of a psychological thriller, like psychological horror, and you would say that The Lost Boys is one of them vampire films. And vampire films have, down through the years, have evolved from the likes of Nosferatu on over to the Dracula films with Christopher Lee. Absolutely amazing stuff. If you're into that kind of stuff, Christopher Lee was an excellent. He depicted the whole vampire thing very well. And then you go on into films such as the new ones like Twilight, on into the 80s movies like The Lost Boys and this one, Flatliners. And then, or Flatliners wasn't a vampire one, but The Lost Boys, and then on into the latest films of Twilight, the Twilight saga, of course. But that's basically all I just wanted to put up a little show. I'll come out of character now, and I can tell you that I just wanted to put up a show basically for Halloween. Say, just to get into the mood for Halloween, and just wanted to put it up, and it was fun doing it. I always like to get into characters and stuff, and it's a bit of fun. But I can tell you now, I'm going to be focusing on other stuff in the next few days. I'll try and get this uploaded before Halloween or on Halloween Wednesday. But for now, I'm going to take it easy, folks. Going to wash my face. Kioster over and out.